on the sports section. Mankiewich Ken Fermin here until midnight. And this is WUSB Stony Brook. But most importantly, you can join in the conversation as well. And the number to call is 631-632-9872, 631-632-WUSB. Anything you want to talk about, what we just talked about for the first hour as far as the Seawolves are concerned, talk about the malaise era of New York football in particular, what happened today with the Jets and the Giants, neither team won, or talk about teams that actually do have a chance, like the New Orleans Saints, who now lead the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by a score of 9-0 with 4:51 left in the fourth quarter. First of all, there is a rule, an unwritten rule, but followed just the same, that you do not shut out Tom Brady. Has Tom Brady ever been shut out?
I think he'd have to be. I have no clue when the last time that was. Certainly,
I mean, I got to Google that.
I'll tell you that.
Ask it. Has Tom Brady ever been shut out?
It's funny, the last time he was shut out was last year. Well, he was almost shut out. But
9 in his career. But
9.
They had to be. Okay, now we got to look. Okay.
Well, I was going to say, through 3 quarters, the last time his teams have been shut out were when they faced the Saints. Remember last year through 3 quarters, Saints were up, was it 28-0 through 3 quarters. Ended up winning 38-3.
No, that can't be right. 9 shutouts. No, he's given 9 shutouts in his career.
Oh, here we go. 2 career shutout losses. 2016 against the Bills, 2006 his first, and one of only 2 against Miami. So he has never been shut out outside of, outside of a non-divisional foe. It won't change because Tampa and New Orleans are in the same division. But
both away games.
Yeah.
So that
never been shut out at home, which is even more impressive.
So New England at Miami, 2006. So wasn't that his rookie year?
No, his rookie year was 2000, 1999, 2000.
Oh my God, I keep forgetting how far back it goes. But 2006 is 15 years ago. But I keep forgetting how long he's been in the league, and
he'd already been a 3-time champion through 2006.
That's right. Okay, so
that was his first career peak. We're not even getting to the second one, which came in the mid 2010s, as well as the recent one, which is in Tampa.
Yep. Okay, Saints handed Tom Brady the worst loss of his career, and that was only a couple of years ago, but that was 38-3. Yeah, it was
that was last year in Sunday Night
2020. Yeah. Okay, 38-3, 35-point loss to the Saints is the largest of Tom Brady's career. The previous record was a 31-0 shutout versus the Bills in 2003. So twice in his career has Tom Brady been shut out. But there's still some time left in this game, and there's 3:55 left in it, and Tampa Bay has the ball. So, you know what? This is where all these betting houses come into play, because if you open up one of them, you're going to see what the odds are on Brady scoring on this drive, whatever it is. Unfortunately, I don't have the monitor on in front of me, so I don't know anything about it.
Well, he's at 3rd and 10 with 3:47 left to go in Buccaneers' own zone.
Okay, so
a lot of room to work with. They're around their 30. So
what kind of odds do you get that he scores on this drive?
You never count him out. Definitely still 50-50, even though realistically it should be like 85-15.
Because the great thing about
it's harder to Matt, because they're without Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. Both of them went down with injury earlier in this contest. Godwin took a really bad hit. So, your best receiver right now is Rob Gronkowski.
Well, that's not necessarily a bad option to have, but the fact of the matter is he hasn't done anything all day either.
Well, as we're speaking, Matt, Brady just threw a pick to a defensive back for New Orleans. So New Orleans gets the ball in Bucs territory with 3:40 to go. Gardner Johnson with the pick. And Brady has been getting cooked all day. Which you got to say, you got to tip your hat to Dennis Allen. Not only is he a great defensive coach, number one, but he's filling in the head coaching role for Sean Payton, who tested positive for COVID on Friday and immediately entered NFL protocols. So his defense, I haven't seen a better defense performance, I think, any day in the NFL. And that includes what the Cowboys did against the Giants not even 12 hours ago.
I am thoroughly impressed with the job they've done so far because, as you said, Brady threw a pick, and not only that, he hasn't had good field position to work with either.
No.
He started from the 3 on this drive.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
And again,
Brady,
you don't see this very often.
24-45. His first pick has no touchdowns, obviously. 190 yards. And Taysom Hill, 13 of 27 for 154. And wow. To be honest, for me, I'm not surprised. The panel for the NBC broadcast, every one of them, minus Drew Brees, picked the Buccaneers to win. I thought that was foolish because we saw last year in the regular season how good the Saints looked. Even take out Drew Brees, the defense still dominated against Tampa Bay in the regular season. It was the postseason where Brady finally got their number. So I'm not necessarily surprised that the Saints are winning. I predicted them to win, but they're winning 9-0 because their offense really hasn't been doing too much either. And with Taysom Hill, under the pocket, it's really been a lot of RPOs and a lot of quarterback options, to mix with his passing. They have less total yards and obviously less passing yards than Tampa Bay does, is New Orleans. But that doesn't stop them from getting those field goals.
I'm looking at I'm trying to get the box score here, but NFL.com, I think everybody's looking at this thing because it's running so slow.
Brett Meyer has been the only scorer for either team today. 3 of 3, including a long of 42, responsible for all 9 points.
Well, you know what? That's usually the mark of a team that has no offense and a great defense. You're like those. That's
the Saints, yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty much the Saints.
And it's not fair to say there's no offense. They got Alvin Kamara, who today's being held in check. And Marquez Callaway, he has 6 receptions, over 100 yards catching. It's just that they haven't had that quarterback to succeed Drew Brees. And they thought it was Winston. He was living it up towards the start of the season, but he's been hurt. And now obviously you go with Hill and it's not working out. Tom Brady just threw his Microsoft Surface into the trash and broke it on national TV. That'll make the headlines.
Well, I'll tell you, one guy's having a good day. He's at Callaway. My God, 112 yards reset on 6 catches. So that's pretty much, that's the only guy in 3 figures in anything, really, except for, the quarterbacks.
As you said, this Saints team, they've been doing a great job applying pressure defensively. 4 sacks on Tom Brady.
I am absolutely thoroughly impressed with the job they've done so far. Now, of course, it really doesn't mean a hell. Well, first of all, it's a 2-score game no matter what you do. But as long as they don't turn the ball over and they run clock and they get at least 1 first down on this drive, they can pretty much sew it up.
Yeah. New Orleans just punted it away with 3:17 to go, but Tampa's going to be actually roughing a kicker, which is the worst time to make that
first down
penalty. Automatic first for New Orleans. They get the ball inside Tampa territory with 3:17 and no timeouts remaining for the Bucs.
Oh, that's not good. And I like I just said, they get the first down and they can pretty much sew it up because they can easily burn most of that 324 even if they don't score on it. Matter of fact, they don't want to score too quickly, naturally. Looking at the rest of we do have to talk about Dallas. And Dallas, it's, again, improving to 10-4, 21-6 win. No surprises whatsoever coming from MetLife Stadium. The Giants not able to score a touchdown, couple of field goals, and Dallas dominate pretty much end-to-end on this one.
Yeah, honestly, today, New York Giants look like the worst team in the NFL. And
they're among the worst.
No, I think today, Matt, they look the worst. And the reason why is you look at some of these other teams, that is record-wise, look at teams that were worse than them. Obviously, the Lions. They just beat the best team record-wise and offense-wise in the NFL in the Arizona Cardinals.
Right.
So they're out. Look at the Texans and the Jaguars. The Jaguars got rid of their abysmal head coach in Urban Meyer. And I want to apologize to every Jacksonville fan out there saying he would have made a great head coach. I was wrong. I was foolish. Not as foolish as he was during his tenure. But, they thankfully made the decision to remove him after some unbelievable, allegations and actions on his part, allegedly.
Well, that would get him fired from a college job. That's the thing.
Any job, yeah. Kicking your own employees, allegedly, it's unbelievable the gall he had to allegedly do that. Especially to one of his subordinates. It's as well as other alleged things, like just completely disrespecting his own coaching staff. If you're a coach and not taking your coaching staff seriously, how are your players going to respect you and take them seriously?
Well, you always got to remember, with your coaching staff, if you don't like your coaching staff, you hired them.
That's true. It's unbelievable. He allegedly had them defend their resumes when he was the one who picked them because of said resume.
Wait a minute. You defending your resume? I defended my resume already on my job interview.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Exactly. It's not their fault that you decided to sign them because of their history and resume they submitted when they wanted to join the team, allegedly. So that it's just unbelievable.
I'll tell you something, and this has always been the case for professional sports as a general rule. A pro job is a pro job, no matter how bad it might be. It's rare that a coach or an assistant coach will turn down a pro job. I mean, if there's a better one that they know they're going to get, okay, fine. Or if they like where they are, okay, fine. But rarely do they, if they're not in the pros, rarely do they refuse an opportunity to get in the pros, which is why, the Washington football team has coaches at all, working for Snyder. But,
yes.
But the whole point, there are two tracks in coaching, and it's not unique to football. It's really the same in every sport. It is rare that a coach excels in both collegiate and pro. Larry Brown is the exception, not the rule. And, of course, his success in basketball.
For football, we kind of saw it in Pete Carroll and the Harbaugh brothers.
Well, Pete Carroll was only okay in the NFL and great in college.
He got a ring, though.
Yeah. But
they got them to 2 Super Bowls. No.
Yeah,
I put him above okay. I put him at good. They've been a consistent playoff team till this year.
There aren't that many coaches who can do both.
True.
Now, Carroll, you can make the argument that he actually started out in the pros. He actually coached the Jets before he went to USC.
That's another fair point, yeah.
So he was pretty much on the pro track. It really is, when you're an assistant, let's say linebackers or running backs, when you're an assistant to an assistant, okay, you can go in either direction. And if you look at the coaching records, coaching resumes of a lot of these guys, they bounced between college and pro. But once you get into the coordinator or head job, you are either on the pro track or the college track. And it is rare that you can succeed in both. Look at John Calipari, a disaster in the NBA. Rick Pitino, okay in the NBA when he was with the Knicks, but really excelled in college and preferred to stay in college.
Wow.
And Vince Lombardi, a pro all the way through, only worked in the pros. But or Jimmy Johnson, another exception, who won in both college and the pros, but largely because he ran his college teams like a pro team.
Right.
So people have been making that argument as well.
Yeah. Even those, just going back to the Jaguars, they look better without Meyer, even in the loss. Through the first 30 minutes of play, they were only losing 20 to 10. So they were, a couple possessions or a couple scores, but still, it was still closer than most of their contests. And they actually finished with more total yards than Houston, who's another team who record-wise is worse than the Giants, but they got another win, and they played pretty good overall. David Mills going 19 of 30 with 2 touchdowns, and Brandon Cooks catching those 2 touchdown passes, going for 100 yards on the day. So, even then, I'd put both of those teams above the Giants. The Jets, who we're talking about later, I don't think had a good first half.
17-10 lead, yeah.
That's true. They played a good first half, and they just couldn't carry it into the second.
Well,
the Vikings didn't
Miami
play.
had
I think they're on
play
bye.
for. That was the big thing.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. But, outside of the Buccaneers, who, by the way, no team leading the NFL in points has ever been shut out at home in December or January. And Tampa Bay averages about 31 points per contest. So that's just an incredible testament to what New Orleans has been doing right now. But outside of Tampa, no other team in the league was held without a touchdown during their games, except the Giants. And unlike a lot of these other teams, the Giants weren't even close to getting into, that red zone territory for much of the game. I mean, it was literally an abysmal effort through and through.
Well, get a load of this. They're at the 2-minute warning, and New Orleans still has the ball. So that's a good sign. Now, there are a couple of teams here, though I saw the scores earlier today. I kind of wrote them off, took them for dead. The Pittsburgh Steelers, one of those, and the Green Bay Packers, another.
Yeah, we were missing this. Well, I wouldn't write the Packers for dead, number one, but we were kind of missing this. These upsets, happening over the past few weeks. There wasn't too many of that. The Lions one definitely supersedes all. But no, as you said, let's focus on Pittsburgh first. You're definitely right. This was a game where I felt like Tennessee really needed to win just to establish that consistency. Go back to last week's show when I said, Tennessee is a good team. They just need that consistency. And it just isn't there. And it's so tough to, kind of judge where this Tennessee team heads as, they try to get a playoff spot. Looking at them so far, they're still good for third in the AFC, but they're falling down with that loss, while the Steelers are on the rise, on the bubble, hanging in there, with the win. Tennessee, they play a lot of close games, and ultimately, they tend to hurt themselves, a lot more than they do in terms of getting beat by their opponents. Ryan Tannehill, no passing touchdowns, one rushing touchdown, but he only had 153 yards and threw a pick at a really pivotal moment.
Yeah, and they've lost 3 of their last 5 at the worst possible time because the Indianapolis Colts are breathing down their necks a game behind in the AFC South.
Huge win.
Thank you.
Ginormous win. Patriots were the hottest team in the league entering this week, and the Colts definitely did a number on them defensively, holding them without points through the first 3 quarters. And everyone, myself included, were holding their breath, their final 15 minutes as the Patriots clawed their way back into this one, making it a one-score game, 17-20. But Jonathan Taylor, an incredible season so far, goes on a huge run, finishes the game with a touchdown, 170 yards on 29 carries, averaging 6 per carry. I know the MVP race is between quarterbacks, but Jonathan Taylor, man, especially with Derrick Henry going down, having a phenomenal season so far, and is one of the best players in the league. Only a sophomore, only his second year in the pros. Amazing.
Another team that I thought was I actually thought that the Colts were going to romp because after 3 quarters,
I thought they were done.
They're pitching a shutout, but always in the back of your head, what can New England pull out? And you're looking at the clock and how fast can they score and how fast can they run down the field. And, the clock obviously was favoring the Colts, but adding that last touchdown late in the fourth was obviously the straw that broke the camel's back for the Patriots. But the Patriots have very little to worry about right now.
That's true.
Because,
they're still ahead by a lot.
Yeah, the Bills are only 1 game behind, but I believe they have the head-to-head on them. So, yeah, so their 4-game winning streak, or their winning streak in particular, has been ended. And the Bills did win, of course, so they are at 8-6. Miami, that win as another team that you wrote off for dead after 3 quarters. That you're same old Dolphins for everybody about same old Jets, where they just would snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory, but they do pull it out and they stay in the race at 7-7, and it will go down to the wire because so many teams are in this logjam, all within a 2-game span, 9, 5, 8, 6, 7, 7. Okay. And particularly in the AFC. And it's so hard to predict right now because the Bengals and Ravens are tied right now for first place, and the Browns only half a game behind, and they play. When do they play? They play tomorrow night against Vegas. So, again, they could be right in there too, and they can, give the Ravens and Bengals some trouble because there's still plenty of time. And the Steelers, of course, they're not going away. So that AFC North is still a toss-up. AFC South, the Titans, bad loss. Colts, great win. And that's far from decided. Kansas City Chiefs, they had a nice win. against the LA Chargers, and they opened up some distance, which we were a little bit worried about going into this week.
Yeah, that win for Kansas City was huge because, as you're talking about, the distance was really starting to extend. So for Kansas City, them getting that win puts them a game, one or two, I think a game above, 2 games above Tennessee for that top spot in the AFC.
Well, no, they're only half.
Chiefs are 10-4.
They're one game. So
1 game. There we go.
Tennessee's 9-5. Kansas City's 10-4.
Yeah,
but the Chargers are 8-6, 2 games behind the division.
Exactly, and if they won, it would have been a 3-way tie for first between Kansas, Tennessee, and LA. Mm-hmm. Even so, LA still looks really good, and that 4th spot it's going to be a battle for sure. There's a lot of teams in that hunt for the 4th spot. You got 7 playoff berths available, and you have Tennessee and New England tied at 9-5. LA, Indianapolis, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Baltimore all tied at 8-6. And with teams like the Browns and the Steelers at 7-6, 7-6-1. So you got a lot of teams still in the hunt and at that 500 or better level this late in the season.
And of course, as we said, the NFL loves it, and
yeah.
The gambling houses love it. And
I don't think I remember, Matt, a time where we're through week 15, and there's so far only 4 teams eliminated from playoff contention. The Giants are technically still alive because Washington hasn't played yet.
Yeah, because they play Philadelphia on Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday.
Yeah, that got pushed back because of COVID.
Right. And yeah, very odd, a Tuesday NFL game, but there you go. But that NFC East, of course, Dallas is probably going to run away with the division, but Washington and Philly still have a shot at a playoff spot, and one will eliminate the other on Tuesday. Most likely.
Hypothetically, yeah. Probably eliminate the Giants as well, with that. So, even better for them. But, yeah, of the 2, I predict Washington to be the better one. It's tough because now they're without their quarterback in Heineke, I believe, and defensively they're without guys because of injury. But yeah, they're missing a lot of pieces because of COVID. And the Eagles that's also been really where the talent makes up for it. They're still 6-7, Matt.
Well, get a load of this. There is one team in the entire NFL that has nailed down both its division title and a playoff spot. And it was one of those teams that I had written off for dead because they were, nasty tussle with the Baltimore Ravens, but pull it out 31-30, the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, it was a close one. That one could have gone either way. And, you think, maybe Harbaugh's not thinking this, but if I'm him, I'm definitely thinking, if I get a shot to either go for the field goal or go for 2, do I change my mind? Honestly, I would have gone for the field goal, played safe. I get why, because you got Aaron Rodgers on the other end, the gunslinger, already dropped 31 on you. So, you already know what to expect. But, to me, that was a game where Baltimore showed a lot of heart. And Huntley had a tremendous game as well, filling in for Lamar Jackson. But, Aaron Rodgers, especially offensively, he just brings everyone around him to a different level. Green Bay at one point went on this scoring spree where they went to the end zone 4 out of 5 consecutive drives. So even with that dominance, especially early on in the game, Baltimore can still climb their way back and were able to go toe-to-toe against one of the best teams in the league. I think now the best team in the league, the only team with a secured playoff spot.
That's right. And Aaron Rodgers, 23 for 31, 268 yards, 3 TD passes.
Third one tying Brett Favre for the all-time passing touchdown record as a Packer.
And he just continues to knock records down and continues to, I guess, look, the Green Bay Packers these past few weeks have been the cardiac kids. Mm-hmm. You write them off through 3 quarters and somehow they pull it out. And as a result,
Rodgers just pulls a rabbit out of his hat, time in and time out. That's why he's still in the MVP race, even after missing a week due to COVID protocols. And with this big loss, I feel like a lot of folks, myself included, thought Brady was essentially running away from this. And a game like this just wasn't conceivable where he wouldn't finish with a touchdown or put up the best stats. Now we're here. So now you really gotta take a second look at those MVP, votes and think, all right, is it still Brady at number one, or is it Rodgers after today, or is it someone like Jonathan Taylor? I know realistically it's not, but he's still put in a lot of work and was ultimately the dagger through the hearts of the Patriots to snap their 7-game win streak. So it's real tight in the NFL, and that MVP race is heating up even more.
Well, most importantly, as we mentioned, this is the first time, there's only a third time Tom Brady's been shut out at all. And the first 2 times were earlier in his career, way early in his career, 15 years ago early in his career. And this is the first time he's ever been shut out at home. How do you like that?
Insane. I don't think anyone would predicted that, heading into tonight. But, Saints definitely with their wake-up call. Allen once again, Allen getting the better of Tampa Bay. It's something where if New Orleans sneaks to the playoffs, it's something you definitely got to remember. Because while New Orleans tapered last season, in the postseason against Tampa Bay, this was the strongest they've looked against this Tom Brady team. Any Tom Brady team, but especially this one. And with one as much talent as this, if Brady's missing any pieces, New Orleans could steal a game against them come playoff time, and it could be them facing a team like Dallas or Arizona or LA. They're still in there, by the way. They have the 7th spot right now, the last spot above Washington, Minnesota, and Philly.
Oh, man. I mean, obviously when you're shut out, your possessions are going to end with either punts or turnovers, but sure enough, I mean, looking from the very beginning, punt, missed field goal, punt, end of half, punt, turnover on downs.
That missed field goal,
fumble,
was
punt,
really the only time
interception.
they were anywhere close to the red zone, and even then it wasn't that close. And that fumble, I think, as well. But yeah, it's not even that they were shut out; it's that they really didn't have too many opportunities to score. Now, that Saints defense, it was the defense of the week, probably of the season so far. Just phenomenal work from them. And again, just doing a good job getting to Brady, defeating the offensive line, which has been really tough to beat this season. And their defensive backs as well coming up big with a pick. And limiting, again, those remaining receivers once Evans and Goodwin drop.
So, Tampa Bay drops to 10-4, and
they're tied for second now with Dallas. I think Dallas is a head-to-head.
Overall in the NFC, but they are still very much in control. I mean, the Saints improved to 7-7, so that's good for them. Only problem, however, is that there's such a big margin. Tampa Bay, now, this is 14. They both played 14 games. They have 3 more to go. And Tampa Bay, of course, is 3 ahead in the standings. So Tampa Bay should be able to clinch the division next week.
Yeah, no, agreed. The Saints, definitely rising up. I don't think they could win out, but I think they could do just enough to retain that final spot just because of the inconsistency of the aforementioned teams like Atlanta, Philly, Minnesota. Washington's going to be their biggest challenge, but Washington, if they're not healthy and they don't got, to me, really, if they don't have Heineke because they're already missing pieces, especially defensively, they're not making the playoffs. And the NFC East, really, the only team that stood out has been Dallas because big reason for that, too, is they're so good on both ends. Defense obviously came up today against the Giants because the Giants couldn't even sniff the end zone. But offensively as well, even though they didn't have the best game, Dak Prescott is having a heck of a season. Ezekiel Elliott is unstoppable, especially in the red zone. And receiving-wise, they got great pieces like Gallup and CeeDee Lamb. And Dalton Schultz, the tight end.
You know what, though? I think you can pretty much pencil in the division clincher for Tampa Bay. You know why? Last 3 games, Carolina, Jets, Carolina. They still have their home and home against the Panthers and the Jets. So
yeah, that Jets one is virtually a win. But again, I got to say, we got to go back to this game, Matt, because we haven't even touched on it that much. Detroit 30, Arizona 12.
First
the
off,
Detroit Lions entered this game 1-11-1.
I mean, first of all, it's called a puncher's chance. Okay, you always have to rule. I mean, but on the other hand, this is a long shot side bet. Okay, you put a couple of bucks on the Lions to beat the spread, at the very least. You definitely don't put any money down to win. Anybody who did cleaned up, but they improved to 2-11-1, and the big question is why and how. I mean, first off,
unbelievable.
Jared Goff, 21 for 26. 3 touchdowns, 216 yards, but 21 for 26, 5 passes all day long dropped. That's amazing.
It is. It is ridiculous. And the interesting thing, too, funny thing is, with Jared Goff...
And the run, Craig Reynolds, 26 carries for 112 yards. I mean, they couldn't lose either way.
Yeah. To me, that's really been, I think, Arizona's biggest weakness is that their run defense is not up to par with the rest of their defense. I think they got a really good defense. But it had just, again, as I said, no answers for Jared Goff, no answers for Craig Reynolds. Jared Goff, though, it's funny because if there's one team he always excels at playing against, it's Arizona. Even going back to his Rams days, he's 8-1 overall against the Cardinals. And Cardinals are winless in their last 5 games against Jared Goff. And he has, I wish I could find the stat, but he has, I think, a 75% completion percentage against the Cardinals. You know, he just tremendously owns this team. And through the first half alone, he was 15 of 19 for 171 yards and a pair of touchdowns.
I mean, everybody, you picked a week for everybody on the Detroit Lions to have the game of the year, maybe even game of careers. I mean, this is pretty much what it would take to beat a 10-3 Cardinal team, and they did. At home, of course, in Detroit. But, you know, that is the highlight of their season. I mean,
for sure.
If you're a Lions fan, you can put that. You know what? It's second half of the season with the Jets, Giants, and the Jets and the Giants. We were hoping for that they would at least be entertaining. That's the type of game you were hoping for. So at least the Lions fans got some entertainment out of the deal.
Yeah, exactly. You know, just history, literally. This is the first time in NFL history a team with 1 win has defeated a team with 10 wins on the season by double digits. and honestly, you know, looking at this Lions team, in my opinion, they are way more deserving of the wins and even more wins on their record than teams like the Jets, really teams like the Giants. Because to me, you know, this Lions team, they come so close time and time again before they ultimately got that first win against Minnesota a couple weeks ago. You know, the Lions, and they remember go back against that game against Baltimore. You know, technically that first off, Baltimore won off an incredible historic field goal. It was 63 yards from Justin Tucker, but the play clock was already at 0. So the Lions got screwed out of one there. And they've been playing in a lot of tight, you know, 1-score contests where ultimately it goes the other way. And even that game against the Vikings came down to the last possession, last pass of regulation for them to get the win. You know, this team, are they a good team? No, but they got a lot of heart, and they honestly, they just have this gear that they managed to go into when it's time and when they're in those tough battles. You know, they're a team that really improve, I think, throughout a game where even if they're not playing too well in the first half, they're still going to give you fight in the second. That's something these New York teams, Giants especially, are desperately missing, number one. And number two, you know, for Detroit, they were on it from the opening kickoff. You know, this team was on a roll against Arizona, and Cliff Kingsbury had no answers for the Lions.
I mean, I'm looking at this right now, that you've mentioned it, and yes, the win was a nice big one, 18 points. They did lose big to the Broncos last week, but you take a look at, first of all, they've won 2 out of 3 because they beat the Vikings by 2, but they lost to the Bears by 2. They lost to the Browns by 3. They tied the Steelers. They got destroyed by the Eagles, but they lost by 9 to the Rams, lost by 23 to the Bengals, but lost by 2 to the Vikings, 10 to the Bears, and 2 to the Ravens.
Yeah, they have I think 6 1-score games, and they've gone 1-4-1 in those games. You know, it's tough draw of the straw, but at the same time, you know, this team could have easily been a 3-4, 5-win team at most. You know, had some of those kicks, field goals, or some of those plays gone differently. So, this to me is a team. Again, they're not a good team, but they're definitely. I think today is people are starting to get credit that at least there's a foundation there that you can build off this. And again, I go back to the Giants because I looked at them today. They were horrible. To me, there was nothing that stood out where you could build from it. Seriously, what can you take from this game other than that they suck?
There's
at least
bad,
the Jets.
and there's
at least
irrelevant.
The Jets, Matt. Yeah, at least the Jets. They looked like they were doing something. Even if they weren't the better team, that first half they were not only playing good, they had a lot of heart and honestly doing things I don't think I've ever seen in a pro game. I think it was Crowder. He caught a ball towards midfield, ran it 5 or 6 yards, and as he was getting tackled, he boxed out his defender, did an insane underhand pitch that traveled about 9 yards back to, I think, Braxton Berrios, who caught it and then took it up the field for another 15 yards and ultimately turned, I think it would have been an 8-yard catch to like a 22-yard catch. I've never seen anything like that in a pro game. And although the Jets didn't score, it's just there's that creativity there. And, this Jets team, which has nothing to play for, they're already out. They're picking 4th and 8th as of today in the NFL draft. They are showing more fight than a Giants team that's technically still in the hunt. It's unbelievable.
It really is. And when you're rooting for a young team or a team that's rebuilding, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for effort, and you're looking for things that you can hang your hat on. I mean, Lions, this week, they gave you something to hang your hat on.
Yeah.
But the Jets and the Giants, it's one of the reasons why everybody's so, down on them is that they don't do that as a general rule, although the Jets have been doing more of that than the Giants have. But, again,
ridiculous.
The big problem is that
Wilson.
The same idiots who built these two teams, are going to be the ones making the draft picks next year unless ownership has a different opinion, and you're hoping they do. Because, people are basically saying that, the Giants have to clean house, but the big question is, will they? And we talked about this before, that the pressure from Roger Goodell and the league office isn't there like it was 40 years ago with Pete Rozelle. Okay, yeah. Rozelle's saying, you're embarrassing us, hire George Young and, start getting serious. Well, the league seems to be doing fine without decent teams in New York. Goodell isn't complaining, and even though the league office is in New York, no one seems to care.
And I'll say, this is the most entertaining season in years, and you notice the only team from New York we mentioned was Buffalo.
Right.
Even then, didn't have to mention them too much.
Well, Buffalo's had its issues, but...
Yeah. But to your point, as you said, Giants especially got a clean house. And as of the reports, as of today, it sure looks like that's not going to be the case. Right now, CBS Sports reporting Kevin Abrams is a strong contender to become the next GM. And I don't know what else you could expect if you got a guy who's in-house working under Gettleman to essentially replace him and do the same things. I mean, it's not looking good for Giants fans.
The Giants have won 4 Super Bowls since the merger, since there have been Super Bowls. So you really can't, look way back to like 1960 or sometime like that as a turning point in Giants history. But it kind of was, because when you had your coordinators were Tom Landry and Vince Lombardi, and neither of them took over as head coach of the team, that began the Giants' decline that lasted for 18 years. Mm-hmm. But this, the turning point here, the front office has shown nothing, and they've had plenty of time to do it. We're not talking about 2 or 3 years here. We're talking about, much longer term, and football teams turn over faster than in other sports. Parcells would say, yes, we can turn a franchise around in 2 years. We did it with the Jets. We did it with the Patriots. Did it with the Giants.
So look at teams now that are in the playoff hunt. Look at the Cowboys, how abysmal the whole NFC East looked last season. Cowboys are 10-4 right now. Look at teams like the Bengals, who were amongst the worst last couple seasons. Now they're 8-6. You just go up and down and see how these bad teams. Buccaneers, obviously, they were on the bubble, and then they signed Brady, and instantly, Super Bowl winners. Because careers are so short in the NFL, not for long, the turnover is high. Therefore, you should be able to, if you make a couple of good draft classes and a couple of free agent signings here and a couple of trades there,
you really can turn a franchise around.
No, agreed. But, I'll say this with the Jets, it feels like they're trying, and, it's just not working. Like, they got the opportunities, and, it just doesn't go their way. The picks just don't work out, whatever the case may be. The Giants, it's like you're almost trying to make the worst team possible on paper with some of the guys we've been seeing the past few weeks. I mean, it's not drafting wise, but just signing as well. Mike Lennon as your quarterback. Oh my gosh. You got Jake Fromm in the third string, and he had a good outing because they weren't even trying to play defense on him. They played prevent.
Better off
get into the end zone
with an open tryout.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, yeah. Reports are Daniel Jones isn't returning, and so you're going with, your recent draft pick hasn't completed a full season since he got drafted to the team. Saquon Barkley's back, but who knows where he fits in this offense? And even then, who says he's not going to be used as a trade piece? Your longest tenured player is Sterling Shepard, who just tore his ACL, I believe, so he's out probably for the rest of his career because he was already on an expired contract. Tore his Achilles, by the way, or corner reports. So it's probably his final possession.
Well, definitely out for the season. Won't see him until next year.
It's just nothing to build on. This team is toast.